By saying hello, everybody. Welcome back to our weekly sessions with the Bhakti Yoga Way. My name is Nandini. If you haven't seen me on before, but I just wanted to introduce you guys to today's topic, which will be welcoming change with our guest speaker, Ananda. We are very excited to go through the reflection points and visualizations. This one will kind of be going through and guiding some things, but we do want to hear from you as well. So please don't be shy to speak up. We would like to know your thoughts, any realizations that you guys have. So we will be opening up for you guys to be speaking in as well. Before we begin, I just wanted to talk a little bit about our speaker. His name is Ananda. He has been practicing Krishna consciousness for the past 16 years. His spiritual journey actually began here in Calgary, where I am, and has since taken up his bhakti in the Bhaktivedanta manor in London, UK. It's traveled to Boston, and now he's in Toronto. He's very passionate about applying the timeless wisdom of the Vedic texts. He seeks to influence daily life with lots of meaning, insight, and purposeful growth. His efforts focus on helping young people specifically find clarity, balance, and a higher purpose through Krishna consciousness. So without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nandini, for that wonderful introduction. Okay, we'll get started here now. Give me 1 second. Just do it here. Perfect. Okay, cool. Welcome, everyone. So exciting topic today, welcoming change. What we'll do today is this is a bit of a workshop. I know previously it's been a Q&A or one way you can say one-way presentation, but this one is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit of a workshop. I'm going to throw some thought exercises, some visualization exercises, and also ask you to share some reflections of your own. So we'll get started here. I'm just going to share my screen on here through my iPad. Let me see. Oh, give me 1 second. But yeah, we'll just get started. So before I actually share my screen here, um, I want you to actually think of the last time you went through some intense period of transition. It can either be when you moved out, it can be when you started a new habit, it can be anything that you really like the last time you really struggled through a change, a new job, any new environments, new school, whatever that is. So think of that. And I want you to, in one word, write in the chat what were the emotions that were going through your mind at that point. So just in one word, the last time you experienced change or some transition and how that made you feel. Oh, you guys didn't, you're not wasting time. You're like just getting on it. uh, Perfect. Okay. So let's see here. Doubtful, let's see, frustration, anger, fear, nervous, scared, stressed, doubtful. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all of those. Yeah, change is incredibly difficult or can be incredibly difficult. But this is exactly why I wanted to talk about this topic today, welcoming change. How do we actually welcome change to unlock the transformative power that each one of us possess within ourselves? The fact that you guys are here, you are wanting to be part of this workshop and really trying to think about how you can be more open to change, that should be an indication itself to tell you that you have this power within and you have the ability to change your perspective to change. So that's what we're going to explore today. You can all see my screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay, let's go. So we'll actually start off here. This is actually a wonderful painting done by an Italian artist, Giampaolo Tomasetti. And it's depicting a scene from an ancient, you can say, story that's about 5,000 years old. It happened on in the present day India. And here you can see a chariot that is being drawn by white horses. You can see the charioteer in blue, and you can see a warrior sitting there. Now, this scene is actually the scene that opens, or this is the scene that opens, or the first scene of the book, which is about 5,000 years old. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. It is you can say, the original text, the original yoga text. We have, if there are any yogis on the call, you may have heard of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And Patanjali actually used the Bhagavad Gita as his inspiration to then distill down to the Yoga Sutras that a lot of yogis, a lot of yoga practitioners today swear by. So Bhagavad Gita is this ancient 5,000-year-old book that basically delineates yoga for the first time. And the reason why it talks about yoga, what the initial, you can say, situation that kicks off this discussion between Krishna, who is the charioteer here, and Arjuna, who is the warrior here on yoga, starts off with a scene where Arjuna, the warrior here, is going through immense amount of change. And he's actually struggling quite a bit. The story goes as such. Arjuna was a warrior. He and his brothers had been wronged by another group called, and his cousins actually. They had wronged him in all sorts of ways. They had kicked them out of their home, and even when they tried to get back in, they wouldn't allow them. It had gotten to the point where war was the only option. They had even sent messengers of peace to the other side. So Arjuna and his brothers had sent messengers of peace to try and come to an agreement, but his cousins would not budge, right? And so Arjuna, his entire, you can say, life's purpose was to become the greatest warrior on earth for this purpose, because he knew that when war came, he would be required to step up in a massive way. And so he trained all his life. It is said that at night, while his brothers would sleep, he would actually go in the forest, pitch black, and try to learn how to shoot arrows without any sight. So just by using his sense of smell, hearing, touch, he would try to shoot arrows, and that his arrows eventually did end up finding their targets in pitch darkness. That's how committed he was to becoming the greatest warrior on the planet. And all his life's preparation had now come to this one moment, this one war that was the ultimate war between good and bad, that he had been preparing for his entire life. And what does he do? First of all, have you ever how many of us have been in the situation where we have prepared for something for hours and hours on end, for days and weeks on end? And then right before, and for this one, I won't say what happens right before, but can I get some yeses, some no's, some people in the chat? Have you prepared for something pretty much like for hours on end? And then when it finally comes, what is the feeling then? So imagine whether it's an exam, whether it's a huge presentation, you've prepared for it like the entire week, maybe even the entire month. If it's a massive exam, like a licensing exam or something in healthcare, you've prepared for it for weeks, and not weeks, weeks is an understatement, for years, months. And despite that, the final moment, whoops, right before the exam, right before the test, right before the thing that you've been preparing for, what is the one thought that comes to your mind? How do you feel? Do you feel excited? How many of us feel excited? Shreya is in school right now. Shreya, you've been preparing for exams. You've prepared all night. The exam comes, you're about to walk into the examination hall. You're super excited, right? ready to take this on.
Excited? No.
This little stick man, I believe,
Nervous? Yes.
captures what we all feel. Oh, just stop. Right? we prepare like for any change in our life, whether it's a new job, a new house, a new country, wherever we're going to, we set ourselves at least mentally on this path that we're going to, we overturn every stone, we dot every I, cross every T, and yet the moment before, we absolutely are in. Like, in fact, I feel the more we prepare, the more anxious we are right before the transition. And this is actually scary, isn't it? This is actually incredibly scary. And I want to ask you, why do you think that is? You've prepared, you've done tons of preparation for a exam that lasts 1 hour. You've prepared 7 hours, 6 hours, and sometimes for licensing exams, as I said, it lasts like what, 4 hours, 3 hours. We've prepared 4, 5, 6 months sometimes, and yet we're so scared. Why is that? Wengal, why do you feel nervous? You've prepared so much. You should be fully confident.
Maybe like fear of failure still?
Fear of failure. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, did my screen go blank? Oh, yeah, it did. Okay, fear of failure. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? Why do you feel that we start
I think a couple
overthinking? Thank you,
people
Shreya.
in the chat also said, like, some people said nervous, somebody said
Ambiguity.
ambiguity,
Yeah.
yeah, overthinking as well. I know that I've had this feeling as well, like before writing exams and stuff. And it's like almost like the more you prepare, the more nervous you get. Cause I think maybe you're just doubtful of your own skills at that point. You're just like, I don't even know if I could do this. Maybe I've studied the wrong things and you don't think that you've covered the right topics in
Yeah, yeah,
general.
yeah. Yeah. So it's always like you are always thinking, have I done everything I need to do? Have I studied this? Oh, what if they ask me this one question, this one thing that I haven't truly, oh, I was studying with my friend and he said this, and I think I remember reading this, and now I don't know which one it is. What if they ask me that? Oh, I'm screwed, right? It's that sort of anticipation. Share knows what I'm talking about. And interestingly, this same sort of feeling that we experience even today, that we experience even now, this was the same experience or the same feeling that Arjuna experienced 5,000 years ago. Think about that. This is the one thing that is so unique about the human experience, that what someone feels now, maybe on a smaller scale, maybe you're not on a battlefield, is the same thing that this warrior who had been preparing for his entire life to fight this battle, right before the battle, that's exactly what he feels. Isn't that like quite in the way I think about it is quite cool, because it tells me that the challenges that I'm feeling now, someone else already felt that 5,000 years ago. So why not I just learn from him and try to see what he did, so that I can overcome my anxiety, my anticipation, my fear when dealing with that situation in the present moment. Right? And so this is the point that I wanted to make, that even though he had prepared all his life, he had done everything that he needed to do, right before the war starts, at the pinnacle of his preparation, he breaks down. Arjuna loses composure. His mind starts to fail him. This mighty warrior, who is described in the historic texts, stood at 16 feet tall. Imagine that, 16 feet. I see someone who's 7 feet and I have to do that. Imagine someone who's 16. That's how incredible he was. And this mighty warrior is paralyzed by doubt and despair, right? This is you can say the one thing that sort of captures the human experience, that we can all sort of relate to, that we may have prepared for something. He prepared for it his entire life, but we are preparing for something like over years and months and weeks, and we still feel that. Don't worry, you're not on your own. Arjuna, 5,000 years ago, also felt this, right? I want to now go into why this exactly happens. Because the one thing we can appreciate, I hope you can appreciate, is that despite there being such a huge gap, 5,000 years of a gap between what we are experiencing and what this personality, this warrior experienced, these, despite this huge gap in time, the one thing stays constant is not just the feelings of ambiguity, of fear, of restlessness, anxiety that we both felt, but it's also this aspect of change. Arjuna experienced change. He experienced a huge transition going from the comfort of the villages that they were staying in to now going on the battlefield to now being in a position where he has to fight his cousins. We may not have to fight our cousins for our house or something, but we're still experiencing change in a very visceral way, whether it's a new job, whether it's a new whether it's new school, whether it's new environments, whether it's a new country, whether it's a new partner, new relationships, new friends. We we are still we still have this one thing that continues to show up in our life, and this thing is called change. And not only does it has it is it happening, is it happening to us in this moment or at that moment where we are writing an exam, but it's always happening to us throughout our life. It is said that the only constant in our life is change. It's constant through all generations, all cultures. Every single living being experiences change. Actually, I will refine that statement. Every single thing on this planet experiences change, living or non-living. You can go and look at abandoned buildings. The things have fallen apart. The building, the wood might have gotten rotten. And so even something that's non-living is experiencing change. What to speak of something that's breathing, that's thinking, that's interacting with the world? Why wouldn't they experience change? Just mentally walk through your last 5 years. How much has changed in your life? Where you live, who you spend time with, what you care most about, how you are as a person, your perspectives, your things that trigger you, things that calm you down, your likes, dislikes. So much has changed since 2020. The biggest one is that we are now doing sessions on Zoom, before which before 2020 were never considered a reality. If you told someone that we'll be doing workshops on Zoom in 2019, they'll be like, you're lame. You're seriously like, that's what losers do. And now it's normalized. That's how 90% of the work is done in this world, right? Just think about the amount of change that you and this entire world has experienced just in the past 5 years, right? So this is so the first point here is that change is the one thing that's going to stay constant despite our aversion to change, despite all the feelings of anxiety and discomfort that it brings into our life. Change is going to happen to us. So the next question is, how do we live with change? How do we stop seeing it as an interruption of our life, but rather the fact that change is our life? It is part of life. How do we change our perspective? How do we change our response to it? And this is where I'd like to actually now go into 3 specific reasons why um, why we resist change in our life, right? So this is actually, I would like to actually call out the author of this book that actually gave me this framework. It's called Gita for the CEO by Chaitanya Charan. And he talks about this 3 voices of resistance that make us very, you can say, afraid, or not make us move towards a non-welcoming movement towards change. So the first one is inertia. Inertia is this response that, look, I just can't change. I don't have it in me. I can't do it. I'm not going to change. I can't do it. Paranoia is if I go along with this change, others won't like me. So if new situations come into our life, or we have the opportunity to change ourselves or to pursue something new, we are always held back by this fear that if I go along, others won't like me. And the third reason is cynicism. Cynicism is this idea that even if I change, others won't. So what's the point? This is our inner voice that tells us anytime we're confronted with change. So there's inertia, there's paranoia, and cynicism. What I want you to do is I want you to think about the last time where you were put in a position where you had to change, or change was brought to your doorstep. And think about the voice that spoke the loudest. It's going to be very obvious. Go to that moment where change, first identify the moment. You can close your eyes, identify the moment where change came knocking at your door. Now identify how you felt, and then you'll be able to put that feeling, that response, to one of these three buckets. It might be two, it might be all three, but try to find out which was the most prominent. Okay? Again, inertia is I can't change. This is just who I am. Paranoia is people will judge or dislike me if I change. And cynicism is even if I change, it won't matter. Which voice do you hear most often when you face change? Just note it down. And if anyone wants to share, they can please, if you feel so open, we would love to hear and discuss. Yeah, if you can share which voice was most prominent.
Is it possible to be in like more than one category?
Yeah. It is possible to be in one. You can put all categories or two. Try to identify the one that was the loudest. If you can't, it's fine, but try to identify the one that was the loudest.
I think for me personally, I think whenever it comes to any specific kinds of change, I'm always worried about what other people will think. So I feel like mine always goes into the category of paranoia. Because then your friend, like the friend circle or family members that you're really close with, if you're trying to make a change that they are not as inclined to be involved in, then in the back of my head, sometimes I think, well, what if I change and then they don't want to continue to associate with me? Then I'll be left like alone, and then I'll have to find like a new friend circle, or I might have to associate with new people who maybe don't know me that well. And that sometimes can feel scary because you've known those people for so long, but like that's like just that one version of myself, and if I want to change and grow into a different version, then what if they're not accepting of that new version of myself?
Yeah. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. I will share. My biggest one is cynicism. I am a great, very cynical. I'm like, yeah, if I change, I can see this pattern, I can see what's wrong. So I'm going to try and change myself so that, I'm bringing the best version of myself to the society, or to the community, or whatever. But yeah, and so I'm like, but if I do it, nobody else is going to do it, or I don't know if other people are going to do it. So what's the point anyways? Um, like what is one person going to do in a sea? What is one drop going to do in a sea, in an ocean, right? So yeah, that is It's yeah, it's cynicism for me. Anyone else? Preferably someone who has inertia.
Yeah, I can go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so for me, it would be inertia. I just feel that I feel more comfortable sticking to old habits, old rules, old routine. And it makes me feel a little bit uncertain or anxious just stepping out of my comfort zone and adapting to that new change, something that I'm not so familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm approached with change, I'm like, I don't I don't know like what to expect or what to experience. I would rather stay within my comfort zone than to take that risk forward and adapt to it.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It's yeah, I know what I know, because when I stick with what I know, I have control, right? That's the natural human sort of response to it. And if I have control, then I can change, or I can change the situation to make it more favorable for me, and then that way and in this sort of area, then I'm fine. Yeah, I feel that every day actually. Anyways, if anyone else want to share on the call before we move on.
I think Moini Murthy said in the chat that she's like, sometimes we are forced to change because of the circumstances in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, that is great. So in that, when you do that, you know, how do we respond to it? That's the question. Like, what is the response that comes out? It's like, do we just say we go with it? Yeah, Moini Murthy, yeah, that's a really good point. Anyway, so we'll move on from here. The reason why I wanted to sort of do this little exercise with everyone is because what I want you to understand is that these patterns, they're not pathologic or pathogenic, or there's no problem with these patterns, right? These patterns are there to first confirm that we are human, right? These patterns are deeply human. They actually reflect our fear of losing control, of stepping into the unknown. So, but if we can identify these patterns, if we can identify what voices what voices, piping up anytime we are faced with a new situation, then once we can label it, then we can control it. We can actually address it. So that's why we do this exercise. It's really to see, okay, which of these are piping up, and then once I can identify it, then I can deal with it. Now, let's think about the solution, right? So we've established 2 points at this point, and we have established 2 points. The first point is that change is scary. That was the first, you know, when I joined in, everyone said that it was a new situation, new transition was the feeling. Nobody said excitement, love, peace, tranquility. Everyone was just like anxiety, fear, anger, resentment, like just heavily negative feelings. So we all change is uncomfortable. The second point is change, despite it being uncomfortable, is actually constant in our life. It is going to be there whether we like it or not. So now the next question is, how do we deal with it? That's where I want to bring this up. Adaptability. This is the timeless antidote to the discomfort of change, right? Adaptability is not just, or flexibility is not just adjusting to the circumstances, but it's reframing about how we see change itself, right? When things don't go our way, what do we see? We see failure. We see lack of control. We see this is not what I wanted. I wanted something else, and that something else was going to give me happiness. And because this is not that something else, this is giving me unhappiness. So when things don't go our way, when something changes that we don't do, an unexpected change, we automatically associate that with unhappiness. Adaptability is reframing that perspective, reframing that definition of change in our mind. So that's the first step, is when we have to start reframing and training our minds to actually see change in a different way, right? see, anytime there's a transition or something is there that we don't want or something doesn't go our way, we can see it in two ways. The first option is that we see it as a force that will destroy us. Or, and this is the second option, we can use it as a teacher that will transform us, right? Which one do you think? Most people on this call know me quite well. Wengal, I feel like we haven't officially met, but I feel like you know me now based on what Malvika talks about. Which one do you think I resort to? Please, let's see. Which one do you think I treat change as this amazing teacher who's come to teach me a new lesson in this classroom called life? Or am I like, oh, this is going to destroy me? This is going to be this is going to be my ruin. Which one do you, I'm financial ruin is one, teacher is second. Let's put it in the chat. Which one do you think? And I'll put myself on the spot. Which one do you think I usually resort to? Oh, embrace change. Mohini Murthy is very kind. I don't embrace change. Which one? Yeah, ruin. Yeah. uh, there's a meme on, I know this is being recorded, so we can edit this part out, but there's a meme on where it says that I'm never going to financially recover from this. That is how I react to change. Anytime there's a change, I'm never going to recover from this. But yeah, like, and the reason why I picked myself is because I hope I'm not the only one, but oftentimes our jerk reaction or immediate reaction is that we actually see it as a force that's going to destroy us. We want to run. That's why we want to run away from it. That's why we have anger and resentment towards it. That's why we have fear towards it, because we are scared that it's going to destroy us in some way, shape, or form. It's going to destroy some part of us. But now, if we took that same situation and we asked ourselves, this situation has come in the form of a teacher. What is it trying to teach me? Just think to yourself, imagine where your life would be right now if we saw change in that mindset, right? I've made you go to this time in your life where you've encountered a change, either a test or an exam or some sort of transition in a new school, new job. Imagine, let's go back to that one moment, pick out that one moment where you experienced stress because of a new change and transition. Just go back to that moment with me and ask yourself, if I had seen that moment as a teacher, what lesson would I have learned? Just think to yourself at that point. Go back to that moment. Yeah. What lesson would you have learned? I'll give you my example. So, I was, when I moved back to Toronto, when I got this job in Toronto, it wasn't actually the plan. The plan was that this job was posted for Cambridge, UK, London, and I'd be posted in the UK. And I got to the final interview, and at the final interview, they told me that, hey, we actually don't have room in the UK offices. You can pursue the position in Mississauga in Toronto. And I really wanted the job, so I said fine, but I wasn't happy. I was like, this is gonna mess up my plans. I wanted to originally be in the UK, because yeah, greater opportunity. That's where the head office is for the company I work for. So again, better career growth. And I brushed it off because I had other things on my mind. I just moved on. And then but it was a bother. At the end, at the back of my mind, I was like, I really wish I would have been in the UK. And never once did I ever think about, okay, what is this trying to teach me? What is this new transition, this thing that didn't go my way? What is it trying to teach me? The answer really just came about a few months ago, where I wish, when the answer came to me, I thought to myself, if 2 years, so I've been in this position for about 2.5 years now. If I had thought about what this was going to teach me 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, then all that other time that I had wasted and not really learned that lesson, if I had learned that lesson at that time, my life would have been in such a better position now. I would have positioned myself in such a better way and not wasted those 2 years trying to figure things out. So this is actually the issue, is that in our first moment, we have framed change in our mind as something that will, that will destroy us, that will ruin us. And then that is the initial reaction. But if we just take a moment to just be like, okay, what is this trying to teach me? And really try to think at that moment what it's trying to teach us, then imagine how our life would transform from that point. Right? And so this is the last workshop that I want us to do. Change, as I said, can be seen as a teacher, right? So this is the last exercise we're going to do. We're going to just close our eyes or just try to go into a meditative state. And I want you to think of a change that you are resisting right now. Either something that's uncertain, something that's uncomfortable, or something that you frankly don't want. Right? So you're resisting a change in your life right now. Think of that. Now, imagine that transition, that change as a person. Imagine that change as a teacher who has come to you with a lesson. Ask yourself, what does this teacher want me to learn? What lesson am I required to learn through this experience? What strength, what skill, what wisdom might this experience be trying to teach me? Just think of that and write it down. Actually write it down. You can write it in your notes. You can, wherever it is, but please write it down. Okay. Have you written it down? Okay. Anyone brave enough to share? You don't have to. We are almost done here. So you don't have to share if you don't want to, but because I do recognize it might be quite personal, but I still wanted to give the opportunity if anyone feels inspired to. Again, no pressure. If you also, I'm not going to share mine either, so because it's quite personal to me, so no pressure on anyone. But write it down. Okay, so we'll move on. So the reason why I wanted us to write it down is because as in the next few days, few weeks, or whatever that is, I want you to just keep that lesson at the forefront of your mind and just notice how you react to that change, that transition with this lesson in mind. Do you become more or less susceptible to it? Do you ease into it? Do you actually how does your attitude towards this transition, towards this change, how does that evolve with this lesson in mind? And then when you start to notice that, again, write those feelings down, because then I want you to go back and I want you to look at the answers you gave me at the beginning of this talk. and compare it to the answers you start to give yourself over the next few days. And what you will see, I guarantee, what you are going to see is your eternal evolution, your internal evolution from seeing change as a trigger, as something that makes you anxious, scared, fearful, whatever it is, from actually seeing change as that, from starting to see change as something that is actually incredibly powerful, that is incredibly transformative. And you may actually even become grateful for that experience. Okay, just do that on your own. The one I'm going to leave us with this is that the next slide, the one thing that I want us to take away from this, or not one thing, there are many things, but this is the one thing that you can keep in your back pocket, is an affirmation. Oh, this, it's supposed to be the next line. Sorry, it sort of messed up, but yeah. Actually, let me see if I can, yeah, let me just present it from my laptop here. Just stop sharing, and I'll share my screen here. Can you all see my screen? Yeah, okay. My screen, it didn't change. It still showed on the next one. But yeah, let me share my screen now. But this is an affirmation that we can just tell ourselves as we're navigating change, because I mean, I even do affirmations for when I meditate, and they're incredibly transformative. But this is the one thing we can tell ourselves: I welcome change in my life, and not only do I welcome them, but I will grow through change. These two lines: I welcome change in my life, and I will grow through change. These two affirmations, if we repeat this to ourselves, we will see our attitudes change in an incredible way when change comes in our life. Mohini Murthy said on the chat, sometimes you are forced to change. You don't have a choice. And in that moment, and actually I would say it's not just sometimes, I think it's any time in our life, there's so many times where we don't want to change. We may think that we're resisting the change, but we're just, you know, you can say delaying, or we're just delaying our suffering, because the change is going to manifest at some point, or it is going to come to pass at some point or the other, and we are going to have to accept it. But if we can tell ourselves that, no, I welcome change in my life, and I will grow through change, then we can actually transform our entire attitude towards change. And so with that, the last slide is here. There are three key takeaways. Change is constant. Change is discomfortable initially, but it is a constant. Our lives are marked by constant change. I was thinking about this. I'm in I'm in science. I'm a pharmacist, and even our cells are changing. Our nails, they're growing. Everything about us and in our life is changing every second, constantly. So if we continue to run away from change, our life is actually going to be very difficult. Embracing this reality that everything about my life is a change, and it's going to constantly keep on changing from the moment I was born to the moment I die. That accepting that reality, that's the first step. Then the next step is recognize our resistance to this change. See, is it the voice of inertia, paranoia, or cynicism that is holding us back from adapting to change, from accepting change? When we identify these inner critics, we can actually deal with them. And then the third point is reframe your perspective on change. Let's start to see change, instead of a threat, as an opportunity for growth and transformation. Let's start to see change as a teacher that will teach us very valuable lessons. And we have the capacity to understand those lessons on our own, as you all just did through your reflection. I didn't tell you what lesson each of this change was trying to teach you. You came up with that on your own. So you are more than capable of identifying the lesson, taking a step back, identifying that lesson, and then starting to see change that, okay, this is the lesson I need to learn. I'm going to be a great student, actually, and I'm going to learn this lesson completely. I'm going to master it. And then we'll see our lives evolve. So with that, I'll stop sharing. And that was the end of my talk. I would like to ask any reflections, any questions you may have. I see a lot of people have, quite a few people joined today. So if there's anything, please do share. Happy to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you. PCD.
I wanted to first of all thank you for speaking on such a topic. I feel like it's actually interesting, especially in your last slide, how you kind of said that the thought of just our entire lives going through avenues of changing, literally, like I have a nephew, his name's Arjun, he just turned 1, and the changes that he's going through, like we're just evolutionary going through change. But then as we get older, I feel like we, for some reason, just become so resistant. It's like our mind plays tricks on us because it's true. We're naturally going through so many changes that we don't even see, like within our biology and all that kind of stuff. But then for some reason, I think the overthinking process, we psych ourselves out into thinking and accepting that change is good. And we get comfortable or we get scared for whatever reasons. But I think that now that we've had this discussion, and I think back to, like, I guess you could say the biological level or whichever, it's kind of opened up my eyes to thinking that because we're already naturally changing without knowing it, then it helps me not be so scared to continue to change because it's happening whether we like it or not, or whether we know it or not. So why kind of go against the resistance of change when it's a natural process anyways? And for me, I don't know if that makes sense for anybody else, but for me, that kind of helps me wrap my head around the fact that change is inevitable. So you might as well just work with it versus working against it.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful insight, Nandini. Yeah, really incredible. My dad always says you can either take the medicine happily or with a frown. Better that you take it happily. It's going to make your life easier. Either way, you're taking the medicine. So, Wengel, Shreya, any thoughts, reflections?
I really like the three circles of like resistance to change.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to hear everybody's kind of circle because mine was the inertia one. So I was
Okay.
surprised that we all have different ones. I don't know why I assumed it would all be the same, but it's just interesting hearing all the other fears or the other um yeah, fears that others have. And then also going off of that and going into the reflection of like, what is this trying to teach me? And kind of welcoming that change in a way. I think that's a really nice shift in how you view change. So I really appreciated that. Thank you for sharing that.
No, no worries. Thank you so much for tuning in, for your feedback. Yeah, the three circles were not something I came up with. As I said, I got that off a book. But yeah, it's incredible that, we don't even think about this. Like before I read that, I was like, yeah, like, you don't even sort of like identify why you're so resistant to change. Like we don't even identify that. We just say we just are. We just don't want it. And then when we come to this realization, oh, I'm actually resistant to change, we're like, oh my God, that's so deep. Like you've actually figured it out. But actually, it's even one level deeper. It's like, okay, this is exactly why you're resistant to change. And then one level deeper than that is like, why is that the voice that speaks up? Right? Why
That's a
is
good
it
one.
for me? Why was it cynicism? For Nandini, why was it paranoia? And for sharing yourself, why was it inertia? Right? Yeah, it's a lot of deep work that you have to do. Yeah. Shreya, I think anything you want to share?
I really like the quotation that you put at the end of the slide, like, I welcome change in my life. I'll go through that change. I think personally for me, this fear of change is something I experience when I literally wake up from bed every morning, anticipating like what the day has to come.
Yeah.
So I feel like I should like frame this somewhere up in my room just before I go out for school or anything, just so I
Yeah.
can look at it and internalize it and be able to accept it um, before I um, before I
Cool.
go on with my day.
Yeah,
So
incredible
yeah, thank you for
practice.
that.
And please do let us know how that change, like how that transforms your life. It would be incredible too. I mean, I caught myself recently. I was going somewhere and to meet a friend. And while I was going there, my friend is like, "Hey, I'm really down with a cold. Really can't make it today." And I was like, this completely ruins all my plans. And I was like, wait, I welcome change. I welcome it. So I replied to him, thank you. Thank you for bringing change in my life. And then I went and yeah, I went back home. Yeah, no, wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much. It was so great having you all here and hearing your realizations. Every time I give this presentation, there's always something new that comes up. The first time I talked about this, there was a concept of changing, but changing according to who we really are, according to our identity versus an identity that someone else wants us to adopt. So that was the reflection that came through that. And even today, so many great points that were brought up by you all. So incredibly grateful to all of you for jumping on today. Um, yeah, I learned a lot today from all of you. So thank you. Cool.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining. We are doing these weekly, so every Thursday, 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. So depending on where you guys are within wherever you are, kind of coordinate the time. If you want to ever invite anybody to come, please also feel free. The more the merrier, honestly. So same time next week as well. And I think Sanatan Dharma Prabhu will be giving a class or a talk next week, but the details are to come forward still. But we'll definitely keep you guys in the loop.
Cool. Well, have a good night. Have a good one. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank